FM24 has officially been released, and with that will of course come a lot of new players, which might be you if you're watching this video. Now, we understand as an experienced Football Manager player that FM is not an easy game to get used to at all. It can seem quite overwhelming at first, so many different screens and things to click on, but don't worry, in this beginner's guide we're going to hold your hand through starting up the first thing that you do in your save, selecting a save, creating it, and taking you all the way through to your first game, giving you some helpful tips along the way and guiding you through everything you need to know. Now, this will be kind of a longer video and it's not going to have as many cuts. I'm going to try and keep this as natural as we can so you can see the flow of the game. But if you do enjoy this video, please go ahead, smash that like button, and if you have any questions at all, let us know in the comments down below and we'll answer it to the best of our abilities. And finally, if this is your first time watching our channel, I'm Jake for FMSCOUT. We do regular content over here, daily Football Manager content, everything from tutorials, guides to the best players to sign. It's all over here, so make sure you're subscribed. And with that being said, we'll get right into it. When you first enter FM, this is the screen you'll get. It might look slightly different for you guys. I've already got a manager created, for example, and a save that's already been loaded, but for you guys, it will look very similar. Basically, we're going to go ahead and hit start a new game, believe it or not, to get started on FM, and you're going to select career. The other ones are other game modes that you can play later down the line when you're a bit more experienced. From here, you'll be given plenty of teams to pick from. You can go ahead and select a team from Spain if you want to manage Real Madrid, Slovakia if you want to manage a Slovakian team. I would always suggest, though, for your first save, pick a good team, one that you actually know as well in real life. If you happen to support a team in the Premier League, then choose them. It'll make your life so much easier than trying to learn how to manage in the 10th division, in the 6th division of England, whatever it is. It's not worth doing. For your first save, pick a good team, pick a team you know. That way, you already have skipped that step of having to learn about the squad, learn about the players. I'm a Chelsea fan, for example, so I'll select Chelsea because I know the players that I want to sell, the players I want to sign. Then you're going to go ahead and click choose game mode. Now, this is new to FM24, and it's basically 3 different modes you can play. Original is what you're going to click here as your first time playing. Basically, it will mean whoever is at Chelsea right now will be at Chelsea when we load up the save. But for now, stick to original, and then you're going to go to advanced setup. Now, advanced setup, don't worry, it's not as scary as it seems. You're going to get greeted with a lot of information. I'll explain it very easily to you now. The first bit is the leagues that you have loaded in your save. This will mean if you left your job at Chelsea, you could manage in any of the leagues selected here. So for us right now, we could manage any team in the Sky Bet League 2 and above. If you thought, you know what, after I've managed Chelsea, I'd quite like to make my way out into Spain, you can go ahead to add and remove leagues, click Spain, hit confirm. If you only want the top division, you can select that. The more leagues you have loaded, the slower your computer is going to process your game, so try and keep it as minimal as you can. For a first save, I'd argue you really don't need that much. I might even go as far as saying I only want to manage in the Championship and higher, and that is going to make your life a hell of a lot easier in terms of processing speeds. The next thing you need to worry about is how many people are in your save. Now, if you don't know, Football Manager has a database of over 400,000 players, but if all of those loaded into your game would take so long to process, so long to progress from day to day, it's not worth doing. What you want to do is just select large database here for your first time, medium or small. The star rating here will tell you how good your computer is going to manage this database size. If you go to large and it's like 2.5 stars, 3 stars, take it down to medium. But if you can click large database and you've got 4 stars or higher, that will do you. Here you can see we're only loading in 13,000 players out of the 400,000 potential players, but that's fine because a good portion of those players will never be players that could ever play for Chelsea. Football Manager has a detailed database from the 6th, 7th division of England, for example, upwards, and it's got a database across the whole world of football. If you want to go to an Argentinian 2nd division side's youth teams, you will find the players that are there in real life. That's how detailed it is, but you don't need that much detail. Just select large database, then you can choose your game start date. I'd suggest right now leave that as it is. You'll start at the beginning of pre-season so you can make the transfers that you want to make. Then there's some extra options down here. Don't worry about ticking them on and off. The only one you might want to change in your first save here is this one, attribute masking. Basically, if you have this ticked, any player that you look at, you'll be able to see their full attributes without having to scout them. But the real way to play FM is to untick this, or at least the most common way, I should say. There's no correct way to play the game, of course, but the most common way is to not have attribute masking on. That means when you find a player, you won't know everything about him and you'll have to scout him to see if he's any good. But now we set up the save, hit start game again, and then it'll start to load up. Can take a little bit of a while, don't worry, so we'll sit back and relax until this is loaded. Whilst it's loading, this is a good time to let you guys know I do have my own channel linked in the description down below. If you want to see more entertainment style FM videos, then come check it out. I'd massively appreciate it. Over here, it's more informative content on FMSCOUT, and on the Jake Cooper channel, we do more Let's Play stuff, as well as some YouTube shorts about Wonderkids you might not have heard of. And don't worry, we'll talk more about Wonderkids later. Once your game is loaded, you'll be greeted with this. I've already got a manager profile here, but you'll have to create a profile for the first time, so I'll do that with you right now. Click new profile or whatever it says and start filling in the information to create your manager. I've selected some random personal info. You can then go ahead and customize how he looks. You can randomize it, whatever. We'll keep randomizing it. There you go, we'll go for that. That's going to be my manager for now. I'm not too bothered. Make him look however you like. Everything from his suit color, his tie color, his hair color, the kind of watches he wears on his wrist. You can customize all of that. But the important thing is when you get to this screen here, and it can be quite scary. These are your attributes as a manager. If you want to be a manager that's better working with youngsters, you can allocate some points to that by getting rid of points in certain sections. Maybe you don't want to be a great goalkeeper coach, but you want to be really good with managing youngsters. Now you can go ahead and do all of this, but realistically, I would just hit reset, have it as the basic, suggest the badge for whatever club you're managing. That will give you the attributes that you need really for the level of club that you're at. Obviously, Chelsea being a huge club, we need the maximum level of experience in either section. And then you get to the management style. This is where you can choose the kind of manager you are. If you want to be a tactician, if you want to be a youth development manager, or you can just set it to default. Either way, whatever you choose will give you a preset of the kind of manager you are. The easiest thing I think though is just select the default manager style, hit confirm, and forget about these attributes ever existing. Once you hit confirm, you'll be greeted with a news article about your club. You'll then be given some information about the team you're managing, everything from the club's history to their rivals. You can get all that information there. Then you get given the best 11 at the squad and some further information. This is the part you should really take note of. This is your club vision. Your club vision is basically the things that you need to do, or at least need to try and do, to be successful as a manager here at Chelsea and keep your job. So Chelsea's board culture, for example, they want us to sign players under the age of 23 and high reputation players. Everything that they want from us has an importance rating. The higher the importance of this requirement, the more that it's going to affect the weighting of whether we keep our job or not. For example, if we didn't sign players under the age of 23, as it's only preferred, we might be okay. But increasing commercial revenue is something that's required here at the Chelsea job. And if we don't do that, we could see ourselves potentially losing our job. We get everything from financial objectives to how they actually want us to do on a playing front. For example, at the end of this season, they want us to qualify for the Europa League. And then in our 5-year plan, within 5 years, they want us to be winning the Premier League title and challenging. Each year, we've got different steps of where they want us to go as time goes on. You also have what the supporters expect of you as well. The supporters want us to play entertaining football, attacking football. So that will show you everything you need to do for the supporters to like you. And that's important because your board might really like you, but if the supporters are calling for your head and want you out of the club, then that could lead to you potentially losing your job. Then you'll get this option where you can have inductions over everything that you want in the game. These are basically tutorials for each section, and I'll definitely suggest that you take all of these inductions possible. You don't need to click them all to send today because then you'll be overwhelmed with so many inductions at once. You can see they're kind of scheduled out, so over time you'll learn more about the different sections of the game. But don't worry, we're going to help you with that here. Now you can choose whether you want to have a press conference to meet the media, arrange an inter-squad friendly, a meeting with your backroom staff. You can go ahead and do this. Personally, I think the press conferences aren't very enjoyable, but if you want to give them a go, if you're new to the game, definitely go ahead and do it. Hit confirm, and then you are started in your save. You want to call it something, we're just going to call it this, Chelsea. So then you land here in Football Manager, and I'm going to explain this the best I can in the most basic way possible. The screen that you're going to be on most often is this, your inbox. Every time you hit this button up here in the top right, your game progresses forward a day or so, sometimes a few hours, and you'll get emails coming to your inbox. It can be anything from transfer rumours about players in your league, it can be people making offers for your players, it can be assistants coming to you and saying XYZ player needs resting. It can be all of this information will all come through to your inbox every day. You'll get extra emails that you might need to action, and some that might just be information for you to note. Anything with a red highlight means you need to action it before you can progress a day. This is your club vision, which we mentioned earlier. You're just going to go ahead and choose accept vision, which will be below my camera right now. But yes, there's a button there that says accept vision. Don't negotiate it yet, just leave it as it is. You'll then get some information about players in the last years of their contracts. We'll talk more about that later. Tactics inductions, again, we'll cover that later on, and plenty of other things, information about injuries at the squad, as well as the registration rules for the Premier League, and even transfer rumours and transfer moves, as we can see here. The first screen you're going to want to check out is your squad screen. This, believe it or not, is where your squad's going to be. Again, you'll get given an induction here. Take the induction, it will guide you through everything you need to know about the squad screen, but if you don't and you just want to listen to me, hit skip and I'll show you what you need to know. This is the screen you'll be greeted with, and it will have all of your players. You can filter them by age by clicking the age button. You can filter by ability by clicking the ability button, and it just tells you about all the players that are on your books here at Chelsea in your first team. Let's click on Caicedo to learn more about Caicedo as a player, and we can use him as an example of how players work in Football Manager. So get get ready for some theoretical stuff. Every player in FM has an ability rating of 1 to 200, 1 being the worst player in the world, 200 being Lionel Messi-esque worth of player. Players have a current ability rating. The higher it is, the better the player is. So if it's 150, that's a pretty good player. And they also have a potential rating too. As players develop in their career and play more football, as you know in real life, they can get better. And that happens in game as well. Caicedo, let's say he had 150 current ability, might have 170 potential ability. And over time, as he gets better, he can reach that potential and become a better player. But he can never exceed the potential that he's given at the start of a save. Now, the older the player is, the more fixed their potential will be. For example, Raheem Sterling, we already know his potential. We know how good he can be, and that will be his maximum potential in every save you do. For younger players like Romeo Lavia here, he will have a potential range. What that will mean is because he's so young, no one really knows how good he's going to be in the real life world. So to keep your Football Manager saves fresh, every time you load up a save, all of these young players, a dice is rolled, and their potential can fall anywhere within the range that they have. As Lavia is one of the best young prospects in the world, he will have a high potential range, so it might fall that his potential is 150 in one save, in another save it might be 170. And you can find this kind of information on this report here, where you get given a general idea of how good the player is right now. That's his current ability and then his potential ability. So Romeo Lavia is considered a regular starter at Chelsea who could improve into one of the best players in our team with 5-star potential. All his other information is here too: his age, the international caps, the positions he can play. The general value of a player doesn't mean that's how much you get for him, it's just an estimation. And then his attributes as well. Every single attribute you can see here, from corners to crossing to finishing to his acceleration and agility, are on a range of 1 to 20. The higher it is on that range, the better he is in that area. So Lavia, for example, has great work rate, teamwork and determination, but his corners aren't great. Now really, you'll learn more about Football Manager just by clicking around on these screens, learning when things are. But the most important things you're going to want to know if you're new to the game is how to give him a new contract. To do so, hover over contract and enter contract negotiations. Here you have an interaction with the player where you can offer him a new deal. You can offer 200k a week. Lavia might say he wants 250, then you meet in the middle at 225. If you play career mode on FIFA, works in a very similar way. If you want to transfer the player out, you can offer him out via the transfer room. You click this, you can choose a fee that you might want to sell him for, let's say 60 million, click offer to clubs, and then slowly you'll start to get some interest in your players and offers come through over the next few days. Now if a player isn't at your club and you want to bring them to your team, you can do so by making a transfer offer, whether it's by scouting players or if you just want to search for a player's name. Let's say you wanted to sign Kevin De Bruyne for Chelsea. You can go up here and you can search for anything, teams, players that are in your save. We're going to search for De Bruyne. There you go, we searched for De Bruyne, he's came up, and if we wanted to sign him, we could go ahead to transfer and then make an offer. We get an induction here, which you guys can learn about, but I already know, so I'm going to skip. You can go ahead and make a transfer offer, let's say 50 million. That's just an example though, because we don't actually have that much money in the transfer budget, and we'll come to that a little bit later on. Next, we're going to move on to tactics by clicking this tactics button here. This will take you to the tactics tab where you can, guess what, make a tactic for your team. Now, I know you might want to play Pep Guardiola football straight away. You might want to play just like Jurgen Klopp. In your first save, don't worry about it just yet. All you're going to do is choose the ones that have the thumbs on them. These are the ones that are suggested by your assistants as tactics that could work for your screen. You've got gegenpressing style, tiki-takas, but gegenpress has got a thumbs up, as has counter-attacking. That's a high intensity style, and I know that because I can read it just on here. You then select gegenpress and you'll be given some common options of tactics that work well with gegenpressing systems, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1s, or the one with the thumbs up here is a 4-2-4. So we're just going to try and use that for now. I would always suggest use the tactics recommended to you at the start, and you can tweak these as time goes on. So there you go, our tactic is created. Now if you want to, you can have a play around with it. One thing you might want to change is the roles in your tactic. Every single position has a set of roles. For example, if we look at what you might consider a right back, you can do more than just having a right back. You can have him play as a full back, a wing back, a complete wing back, an inverted wing back. Lots of complicated roles that might seem strange to you at first. There's a description of each one, but I would just suggest for now, leave it as it is and play this style of football. You can make tweaks as time goes on and you understand the game better. Now, right now it's an empty tactic, but if you hit quick pick, you'll get your squad filled in with a rough squad for your team. So Reece James, Robert Sanchez, Disasi, Malang Sarr, Chilwell, all come into your team. But if you decide, you know what, I don't want Reece James playing right back in our first game, I want Malagusto playing, you can drag and drop the players into those areas, or you can click these down arrows. For example, Moises Caicedo's position of a deep line playmaker. If we click that button, we can then see the best players in that role and choose who we might want. So it goes from Enzo, all the way down to Benoit Badiashile, who would be the worst player who could actually play that role. So let's say Romeo Lavia, we want to bring him in. Just by clicking that, we get this done. Now, this isn't our best 11. It's just a quick pick squad because a lot of our players, as you can see, are injured or on holiday currently. By hovering over this status icon, you get to know about the players and where they are. Cole Palmer, for example, has been at the under-21 Euros, so he's not with us. Trevor Chalobah's injured. As time goes on, the status of each player will change and they'll be available to you. But these are all the players that we've got available right now. Now, you will see with the tactic here, we've got some information about familiarity. Basically, that means the more a team plays a tactic and trains a tactic, the more familiarity they will gain from that tactic and the better they will play it in game. Just like real life, you can't just instantly make a team play great football. They need to get used to it over time. Some tabs that you're probably never going to use really are the data hub, the medical center. Yes, there's good information here, but I really don't think you'll be coming to them. You've then also got training, which can actually be quite complicated. And really, if it's your first save, I would suggest not doing your training at all. And the way that you can get about this is by going to the staff section. Now, the staff section not only tells you about the staff members you have at your club, but you can actually delegate some responsibilities. So go over to the responsibilities tab and do this in your first save. Go down to training and delegate that to your assistant manager just by hitting delegate and then confirm. What this will do is mean that your assistant manager will worry about training. He'll sort that out and make your team training a decent level. It might not be exactly how you want it, but you don't have to worry about it if you don't want to. You can do the same for every other section of the game. If you want to go ahead and you don't want to recruit staff for your team and you want someone else to do it, you can go down and select each individual item, what you want to do. For example, if you want to hire and fire the director of football, but you don't want to worry about hiring a technical director, you can delegate that one out and hit confirm, and then someone else will manage that throughout the rest of your save. You can take control back of it whenever you want, but I like to go ahead and just click this button here, and it delegates every single section of hiring staff members. You can do the same for contracts as well. You can delegate that if you don't want to deal with the contract negotiations with every single staff member at the club, which can be quite tedious. You can delegate it out. Your schedule will tell you what games you've got coming up. For example, on the 4th of July, tomorrow, we have a friendly with Chelsea's second team, and then you can see our first Premier League game is against Man U on the 12th of August, so this is some extra information that might be useful to you. Your competition screen will show you how you're doing in each competition. You won't use the club info screen too often. That just tells you information about your club. Club vision is what we saw earlier, where you can check on what you're doing at the club and see if you're doing a good job according to the board. Over here, you can also make board requests. Basically, if you've been at the club for a while and the board like you enough, you can request some things for your team, whether it's new facilities, whether it's upgrading the stadium. All of this can be done here. Don't worry about the finances section too much, but the development center is where you'll see your under 20s, your under 19s, your under 18s, whatever kind of development teams your club has. On the homepage of the dev center, it will suggest to you players that might be ready for the first team. We've got 4 here: Bergstrom, Chukwuemeka, Ugochukwu, and David Washington. If we wanted Chukwuemeka in our senior squad, we can go ahead and click him and then development and then move to senior team. If we decided he wasn't good enough, we can move him back down to the 21s, but that'll promote him into the first team, so he'll train with the first team squad and be available to play in our first team matches. But the fun part, transfers. How can you go ahead and make transfers? Well, believe it or not, click the transfers button and you'll get information about the amount of money you've got in your budget. So £6 million to spend in our transfer budget with £200,000 of wage budget. In your first season, most of these teams like Chelsea have already bought in most of their players and therefore their budget is a lot smaller than you might expect. But next season, it will be higher. Of course, Chelsea have bought so many players this summer that most of that budget has been drained, but there is some left here for us to make some deals. And if we want to know who to sign, we can go ahead to the scouting section. Now, when you go over to the scouting section, you'll be greeted with a bunch of different scout reports. You can sort them by anything you like, whether it's age, position, or scout report rating, which is what I suggest. By clicking this, it will filter all of the best players to the top. So the best player that our scouts have found that could be a good signing is 21-year-old Brazilian Andre. If we wanted to, we could go ahead and make an offer. You can see we've already got some scouts out there in Finland, the Netherlands, Brazil, France, England, Spain, and the Premier League. But let's say you go ahead and think, you know what, I don't want to scout in Finland. You can cancel that, then click on recruitment focuses, and this is where you can search for specific things. If you want a left back in your team, you can go ahead and click create recruitment focus. You can say, I want to find a left back. You can then select everything from his age range. You want him to be under the age of 25, at least be 2.5 stars with the potential to be 3.5 stars, let's say, and then you can go ahead, click confirm, and they'll go out there and look for a left back. Or you can scout in a different way. You can select any position from your tactic and scout a specific area. So you're looking for for any position, but maybe you want to search South America for those players, you can go ahead and send a scout out to South America, and he'll look for players that fit the bill of what we're looking for in that recruitment focus. Alternatively, as mentioned, you can search for players that you want to sign, or you can go ahead and try and find players manually without your scout's help. To do so, go to players in range, and that will show you every single player that's in your save that's interested in a transfer. So we've got 8,000 players here that could potentially want to join Chelsea. You can filter based on transfer value. Some of them we have scout reports on, some of them we don't, as you can see. But let's say again we wanted to sign a left back. You can go ahead, hit search, and then hit left back here. We can then filter on, say, players under the age of 26, hit OK, and then it's given us all the best left backs in value order that would want to join Chelsea. So Adoje, Theo Hernandez, Hincapié. Does that mean Ryan Aït-Nouri is a worse player than Ryan Sessegnon because he's below him? No, it just means he's a cheaper player, and we're filtering by value here. So don't always think the most expensive player is the best. That's not necessarily true at all. There could be a player in the £12 million range who could be a really good option. For example, take Quintin Merlin. He looks quite good over there at Nantes. He is currently wanted by Crystal Palace. If you want to learn more about him, you can go ahead and scout, and over time that report will be generated. You'll get a news item come through when the scout report is complete, and then you can decide if you want to sign Quintin Merlin or not. If you don't want to forget about him, hover over transfer, go to add shortlist, and then indefinitely. That will add him to your shortlist for later, and you can find that by going to scouting and then to shortlist. It's kind of like a save file of all the players that you might want to sign, like you've noted them down for later, and you can check them out easily this way. I would really suggest, if you want to learn more about FM, just start clicking around the screens and finding out where things are, and you'll learn more than just listening to me. But some extra information before we get into our first game. You'll see every player in the game has some kind of green circles on their report. It shows you where they can play, basically. The greener it is, the better they can play in that position. So Lavia can play really well in defensive midfield and central midfield, and it tells you the best roles he can play here as well. But in the attacking midfield role, it's not as green, which means he's not as good there. But let's say you wanted, for some reason, Lavia to be a centre-back. You can see he can't play that position yet. You could force him there in a match. He just won't be a great player in that position. To get him used to that position, go to development and then training. From here, you can select different things. Whether you want to go ahead and make him learn that centre-back role, maybe a ball-playing defender is how you want him to play. You can start training that. Again, we gave training earlier to our staff, so we're not doing that at the minute, but we can take control of Lavia's individual training should we want to. Now that we're playing him as a centre-back, maybe you want to upgrade his marking. To do so, you can focus in on extra things in his training, whether you want to improve his corner taking, his quickness, or defensive positioning here. We'll focus in on his marking so he can start to get better over time. So that's how you can train players on an individual basis. Meanwhile, the staff are doing the training for your full team training. Again, you can do that if you want to by going to the training section, take the induction, learn about it. But really, I think in your first save, steer clear of that. But now that we've gone through the basics, we're ready to get into our first game. So by clicking this button at the top here, we progress some time forward and we get some extra news articles come in. The same way in FIFA, if you've ever played career mode, you can go ahead and progress a day or so, and then some things might happen in the in-game world, and then a few days later you'll have a game. For example, here we've now got a staff meeting to go to. You can go to the meeting, listen to it. For now, I'm just going to skip this meeting and hit end, but they'll give you lots of information about your players you might want to extend the deals of, players you might want to sign. You'll get all that information over there, but we're going to keep continuing. Set pieces, they've been changed for FM24 to be a lot more user-friendly. Basically, if you click the induction, you'll be asked by your assistant manager what kind of set pieces you want your team to do. For your first save, just hit the ones that say staff preference at the top. They're basically the ones that the staff think you should go for, so it really doesn't require any thinking. They'll start making some set piece routines based on the preferences we've just given. But again, we've done that. We're going to go forward. We're going to keep going until we get to this first match against our under 21s. Again, more information appears. We've got a code of conduct. How do you want to find your players based on certain situations? We can go ahead and hit confirm on that if we don't want to change anything. You can see what's going on as we progress an extra day. We've been given some extra information about players' injuries at the minute. We've also got one highlighted in red here, which means we need to go and do this, which is go and meet the players. You can have a discussion with the squad about your plans for the season and whatnot. Go ahead, do that, speak to your team. Then again, we've got another one here to meet the media. You can go to a press conference, see what that's like. You basically just get asked questions and you answer it however you want your manager to answer. Do bear in mind though, in these team meetings and whatnot, what you say will affect the players. For example, in the team meeting, if your Chelsea team really think they should be challenging for the title and you say this season, I really want to make sure we don't get relegated, the players aren't going to react well to that. That's going to affect their mental state, which you can see in the dynamics section. You get an idea here of different players at the club and how they're getting on. We've got a great atmosphere. The managerial support is average because we haven't done anything yet, and the team cohesion is poor. That's how well the players gel together. Because we've got so many new players, it's going to take some time before they gel together. If you go to happiness, you can see every single player's happiness ratings, everything from how satisfied they are with training, to their playing time, to their club situation. Gallagher, for example, is dissatisfied. If we hover over that, he's starting to feel he deserves a new contract. So we can go ahead, action that if we want to, give him a new deal or not. But just bear in mind, the more unhappy a player is, the worse he's going to play. And also, if he's a team leader, which you can see by going to the hierarchy section, our team leaders are Silva, Reece James and Sterling. That might not just affect those players. If you upset Sterling, for example, it's not just Sterling that might get upset. His unrest might go down to other players in the team. It can cause mutinies against you as a manager. So you want to make sure you're always keeping an eye on the dynamics of your team and making sure everybody is happy and getting what they want to an extent. Now though, you'll see we've clicked the button enough times that it says play. That means we've got a match coming up. So we're going to go ahead and go into that game. Beforehand, if you wanted to change the players that you were picking for your team, you could go ahead to the tactics section and move different players in. That's the team that you're going for in your game. So if we go and click through here, you can see we've got our team on the left against our second 11 on the right. We're going to go to the dressing room, and this is where you can give a team talk to your team, whether you want to pump your fist, whether you want to thrash your arms or do nothing. You've got your assistant recommendation of what you should say to the players, but you can choose whatever you like. I'm going to say, go out there, show me what you've got. There are places up for grabs. Impress me. What you say could affect the players. Armando Broja, for example, is composed after what we said. If we said in our team talk, Broja, you're absolutely terrible, that's obviously going to affect how he feels. Maybe he goes into the game more fired up. Maybe he goes into the game upset. So bear that in mind. Your team talks will have an effect on your team. So now keep clicking this button and you'll eventually get to the match. And here we go. The match is underway here in the Football Manager world. There's plenty of things to note. We're going to go ahead and hit the pause button here. You can pause and play the game just by doing this, and it's going to show specific highlights. If we click the settings wheel, you'll see we're seeing extended highlights of the game. If you only wanted to see the key highlights, you can do that. If you wanted to watch the full match, I don't recommend that. That will take a while. You can do that also. You can change the camera. You can change the height of the camera where you're watching the game from. Even if you want to watch it in 2D, you can watch the game in 2D should you want to. You can then go ahead and increase the speed during the highlights, between the highlights, so the game goes quicker. So now, for example, we've selected key highlights and gone for a higher match speed. You'll see next time we get a highlight, the ball will be a lot quicker moving and look a lot more almost realistic and less slow. So there you go. This is a lot quicker than what you just saw. It looks like a penalty has just been given there, so we're going to go ahead and take a penalty. This is just a friendly, so it really doesn't mean that much. And Enzo Fernandez has gone ahead and scored. Now down here, you can change things, everything from making a shout at your team, demanding more. You can add additional instructions to your tactic. You can adjust your mentality, and you can even go ahead and make subs by clicking this button. You'll get some quick information pop up here about subs that we could potentially make. You can also click on the players down here and do quick subs. If we know we want to play Frankie Runham over Sterling, we can switch him off now by doing that and then play again, and then eventually at the next break of play, Runham will come on for Sterling, as you can see. If you want to go ahead and make multiple changes at once and adjust the tactic, click this tactics button and you'll be greeted with this screen where we can go ahead, maybe drag Malang Sarr off for this guy here. If you decide you don't want to play that 4-2-4 that we had and you want to change the tactic, go ahead, click the tactics button here. It will load up the tactic and then we can go ahead and move something around. Maybe we want to bring in Fernandez into the middle. I really wouldn't suggest doing any of this. I would suggest leaving the tactic as it is, but if you do want to tweak things in your first save, feel free to. But really, I think just keep it simple and play the tactic that the game suggested to you early on. So there's a match. You'll go ahead, you'll play the match. Once the match is done, you'll progress a few more days, more things will happen in the in-game world, and there you go. Here's an example. Lavia has just been injured, so we're going to have to take him off for Alex Matos, confirm sub, and now he'll come on. But yes, this is the general gist of Football Manager. You tweak your tactics, you make sure your players stay happy, and then you play the matches. You think the matches are going to be the main part of FM. It really isn't. You'll spend most of your time scouting players, speaking to your players, giving them new contracts. You are really a manager here. And of course, being a football manager, it's not just football matches. That's one day a week in a football manager's life. Really, every day they're doing something, and that is reflective in this game. Now, if you have any more questions, let us know down below. This is just the basics, but on the channel, we've got videos about everything from training to scouting to how to develop young players. All of it is in the game. I mentioned earlier I'd say what a Wonderkid was. I realised I haven't yet. A Wonderkid is a player that has the potential to be one of the best players in the world. And if you want to find more of those players, we do plenty of videos about them. So make sure you check the channel out. Hopefully you found this beginner's guide useful. If you have, smash the like button and I'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.